InProTEd and say a little words about Adina. Thank you everybody for coming to our webinar, to our series, Career Matters for Women. This is really interesting, and I'm very excited to have Adina with us. I will give the stage now to Anna. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody, or good evening, depending, or good afternoon, depending on where you are. My name is Anna Maria Gyönci. I have been friends with Miki and Monica dating back to 2011. So we have a little bit of a history, and I'm delighted to be here. I'm delighted to be part of InProTED. As you all know, the mission of InProTED is to connect students with experienced engineers in software, technology, and with educators. And really, we want to train the engineers of the future. And the team has come up with 3 programs, and we're experiencing one of those branches today through professional development and Career Matters for Women. And we're delighted to have Adina with us today, and then we'll introduce her in a little bit. InProTED also offers summer schools. The 3rd edition of Code Sinaya will be happening next summers in 2022. And then also offering students sharing experiences. So that is also coming up, AI for Good, and other types of programs there. So we encourage you to participate and leverage all of the resources that InProTED has for us. So without further ado, today we're delighted to have Adina Trufinescu with us. Adina is an alumna of Universitatea Politehnica from Bucharest. She has a degree in computer science, a very impressive resume at Microsoft dating back to '98. And currently Adina is principal program manager for Azure Cognitive Services for Vision AI. And she will be sharing with us today from her experience as a woman in technology. So without further ado, Adina, it is great to have you this morning, and please take us away.
Thank you, Anna. Thanks everyone for being here. I'm delighted to share some of my experiences. I'm going to take over the screen. I prepared slides. So let's see if I can do this. Let me know when you can see.
Yes.
Okay, awesome.
Perfect.
All right, so I'm going to minimize Zoom here. All right, so today we're going to talk about the various paths that a computer science graduate has. Basically, my experience was that I started in engineering, in development. So let's see. And then I became a product management. So I'm going to share a little bit about my path. I'm going to share about what I'm working on today, which is artificial intelligence. I'm not going to go very deep, but just provide like a small introduction. And then I have like peppered through the content like lessons for career, lessons for life. So let's get started. So about myself, just to understand like how how I started, and there's this concept that if you want to be good at something, you have to start early on, and that was not the case in for my career. When I decided to apply for college, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, so I applied for electrical engineering at university Universitatea Politehnica Bucharest. I'm sorry, I can't say that in English. And, just to put things in context, I've never seen a computer. I mean, I've seen it on TV, but I've never worked with a computer until my first year in college in 1990. And, just as a reminder, there was no internet until 1990. So my exposure to computers was very limited, but I took the first class in programming and I programmed in Pascal. Probably most of you haven't heard of it. And and then my first operating system was the Microsoft DOS. So this goes like way back. And then once I took that first class of computer science and programming, I realized that this is what I actually want to do for my career. I became very motivated, and I decided in the second year in college to apply to the computer science department. So I went through the examination, again, I applied again, I passed the exam and I qualified. And then for another year, I was enrolled in two colleges, both electrical engineering and computer science, because I was not convinced that, maybe computer science is the way to go. So after 1 year being enrolled in two colleges, that was brutal. And then I realized that if I want to really dedicate myself to the thing that I love, that would be computer science. So long story short, in 1995, I graduated with a bachelor degree in data structures and operating systems. There were like many options in terms of like which specialization to do for computer science. I pretty much like chose data structures and operating systems because it matched my interests, and then it served me well in my career. My first jobs in Romania, I had two jobs before I started in the United States. The first job was as a programmer at a company, at a Dutch company called DataBulk. And for 4 months, they offered me to go to Holland and to work there. And that was my first time when I was on a plane. Think about like first time in front of a computer, first time on a plane. Like, these were the times back in 1990 something. That offered me the opportunity to exercise my English. Basically, I had to speak English, every day. And then, after that, I worked at the telecom. It was called Connex. It was later acquired by AT&T in Bucharest. Again, like that was another opportunity to work in an international company. And pretty much that prepared me in terms of like being able to communicate in English, for what was actually the real test, which was my first interviews with Microsoft. And again, to put things in perspective, is not like, for me, it was not like, I figured things out and then from the first try, it worked out. Like, actually, I had to persevere. The first, Microsoft would come to Europe and they will recruit software engineers. So my first interview was in Sofia, Bulgaria. It was like quite an experience to take the night train from Bucharest to Sofia and then arrive first thing in the morning and go have an interview. I don't know whether I failed because of that or because I was not prepared, but long story short, I failed the first interview in Sofia. 6 months later, I had a second interview in Bucharest and I almost passed, meaning that they liked me, but they didn't like me enough to offer me a job like right away. So they said, we would like to interview more in Redmond, Washington, which was actually a good thing because it gave me the opportunity to, come to Redmond, see the Microsoft campus. And then that was the time when I passed the interview. I got a job offer and my first day at Microsoft was October 1st, 1998. So lesson number one, persevere when you're really, looking to achieve something. Don't get discouraged if you don't, succeed from the first try. Try until you actually reach your goal. As a developer at Microsoft, another fun fact, in 1998, printing to your own printer at home was the hottest thing. Or maybe it wasn't the hottest thing, but it was a thing. So I was working on Windows OS at the time. I started with NT4. Probably nobody remembers NT4, but that was the first OS. And then the second one was Windows 2000. And we were actually 3 women in a group of 100 developers. I don't know, actually, I didn't pay attention that, everybody around me was pretty much like a male. It didn't bother me at all. I was actually used to that because, I was at the computer science college and that was the case there as well. nonetheless, looking back, I think, there were like some teachable moments there. Nonetheless, I shipped as a developer. I worked on Windows 2000, Windows XP, multiple releases of Windows Server, and the infamous Windows Vista. As a developer, one of my first jobs was interoperability between 32-bit and 64-bit. So right around that time, computers would run on 32-bit operating systems, and then there was the transition to 64-bit, and then you need to have computers working on 32-bit being able to communicate with servers running on 64-bit. Looking back, it seems like so long ago, and now it's not quite a relevant problem, but debugging in assembly and working without command source code debugger, it was quite an experience. Around that time, there was year 2000, speaking about like crazy times that happened today. Like at the time, the crazy time was that year 2000 is coming and the world is going to end. And the spoiler alert, the world didn't end. The whole year 2000 date rounding, it was not a big deal, but at the time people were going nuts about that. So every time when something crazy happens, like take in perspective, when you look back at it in 10 years, it's going to seem silly. My first promotion at Microsoft was for a bug that I fixed for improving the performance of an algorithm from complexity n squared to complexity n. And it was something that I was not told to do. It was pretty much like I ran into the problem. I saw that it would take like 15 minutes for some upgrade to happen. And when I looked at the algorithm, I've noticed that, it can be greatly improved. So I applied that, and, that's how I got my first promotion. So lesson number 2 is, as a computer science engineer, you have to have initiative, you have to look for problems, you have to find solutions, and don't wait for somebody to tell you what to do, like have initiative and, think creatively. I was telling you about like my successes as a developer, but I also had like challenges. I really had like a struggle communicating, not because I didn't know English, but because, in the US, there is a certain communication style, a certain culture. So I really had like a language and culture barrier at the time. Think about like, Americans, the first thing you go to work, you go to in the kitchen, you grab a coffee, and then somebody else comes to grab their coffee. And the first thing they're going to tell you is like, oh, good morning, Adina, how was your weekend? And I was just like panicking, like, oh my God, why do these people need to know like what was my weekend? Like, I don't like, anyway, it was not part of my style or my culture. So these small little things, eventually would add up and they will add to my stress. But that was something that in time you learn and you get over. The other challenge was that the job required 12 plus hours a day. If you could work 24 hours a day, they will give you work or you will find work. It was very competitive and everybody was like a top tier programmer. Everywhere at every major software company, the review of the annual review, like every year, programmers and employees would be evaluated for their performance, and they'll be evaluated on a Bell's curve, meaning that, if you haven't heard about the Bell's curve, basically, most of the people are going to be here in the 50 percentile, and then, the good ones and the best ones are going to be here, and then the worst ones are going to be here. But the point being that even if everybody is like top-notch programmer, some people are going to be, are going to fall into this into this pattern here. So the trick there was like, to get ahead while maintaining, a good team spirit, because you are also evaluated for your contributions to the team. Anyway, this was like something that I was not used to because, coming from Romania, that was not something that I've ever heard about, but something that, in time, You get used to it. If you bring in your best performance at work, you will always be among the good ones. But it's nonetheless something that it was like a culture shock for me. After 5 years of being a developer, one thing that I was telling you about the culture and the communication style, and somebody recommended to me this course. It's, if you heard about Dale Carnegie's, he wrote like a couple of books. One of the books is How to Win Friends and Influence People. And then Microsoft, the company would pay for people to take this class. And the class was not focused on computer science. It was focused on about building interpersonal relations, communication style. And then basically they're teaching you these 10 principles, which are timeless. I mean, Dale Carnegie, I think he was, he died around 1920 something or 30 something. So it was at the beginning of century, but last century. But the principles that he put forward are timeless. And, I'm going to cite a couple of them, don't criticize, condemn, or complain. And this is something very helpful, because when you have a problem at work, you don't want to start with the criticism or, complaining. You have to find a way to communicate the fact that, things can be improved without, making enemies, or give honest, sincere appreciation. So, when somebody does something that you appreciate, or it does good work, be sincere in your appreciation. And number 5 is a basic one, smile. And this is, so ingrained in the American culture, and so forth, be a good listener, and talk in terms of the other person's interest. So as a software engineer, you cannot do things by yourself. It's very rarely, nobody can build an operating system by themselves, or maybe there are very few people that can do. But when you work at a software company, you have to work with other software engineers, you have to work with a management team, and you have to work with other disciplines. So being a good listener, and then talk in terms of other person's interests, meaning that, when you want to convince somebody to do something, figure out put yourself into their shoes, and then figure out, how would they see the problem from their perspective, and then try to bring them along in a way that they also see the benefit for their own interests. Anyway, so after I took this class, actually, it really changed my perspective. It really changed the way I communicated. And guess what? I was offered to lead a team of 5 developers. I became a development lead. That is the time when you are actually now responsible not only for your career, but for other people's career. You make hire and fire decisions. So it's quite a big step forward. And in the spirit of this presentation, you can be an individual contributor, software engineer, or you can be a development lead, or later on you can be a developer manager, and move up through the ladder. So you, at some point in your career, you'll have to make a decision. Do I want to focus on programming and then become very good about what I'm doing in terms of writing code, or do I want to manage people? And then that is a different career path, and there are other challenges there, and also there are other rewards. So after I was 5 years development lead, I decided that I want to try something else, and I started looking into program management or product management. And I've made the transition from engineering to product management because as an engineer, you are pretty much down in the trenches. You're focused on making the software work. As a product management manager, you have to understand your customer. That is what I have here at lessons number 3. So you have to understand who's your customer. Is it a consumer, or is it business or enterprise? And who is the persona that will use the product? So the persona is the profile of that user. Is it a mom that needs to take their kids to the soccer practice? Is it a student that needs to use the product, for learning, or is it like a company, management that needs to figure out like productivity for their company? Anyway, so you have to figure out like what kind of users will use your product, and then in what geographies it matters. Like, is it like, there are different cultures, different different cultures, different, you have to worry about like localization and language and all of that. You have to understand the business, like who is the customer and what is the impact on their business, and what is the value of the product. Is it the financial value, or is it like some other value, which is like value to their brand, or some other non-tangible value. And then how much do you charge? Like when you build something, you have to figure out, like, once you know the value, you figure out like what is the price of your product. And then the last thing I'm going to call is like, you have to understand the competition. Who is the incumbent? Are your product a trailblazer? Are you the first one with that product on the market? And how easy is for others to catch up? So as a product manager, I had like other challenges. Think about, the way things operate is that you have the why, like why are you building the product, and you have product planners who are thinking about that, and then you have the what, meaning like what is the actual product and what does it do. That is the focus of the product manager. And you have the how, like how will the product actually work, and that is the job of a developer. My challenge was that I was a developer and I had to learn to think as a product manager, in terms of like, don't start with like, how will you write the code, but actually start about like all the things that I've mentioned before, and then what is the actual product doing. So to give you an example, for instance, let's say that the product planner is figuring out like there is a lot of business opportunity in manufacturing. So that is the why. And then the what is, I want to have a cloud offer for vision AI to detect manufacturing defects. And then how? And that is the job of engineering, and in some cases of research, where you have the way I'm going to accomplish that is I'm going to train AI models. I'm going to use images from the cameras, and then I'm going to run AI inference, and then to detect like defects in manufacturing, and I'm going to send the results to another service. So you can see like, there is a difference between the product planners, the product managers, the developers. And the reason why I'm telling you this is because as a computer software graduate, you have the option to actually go to any of these paths. Probably, I would start with a developer in the beginning, but then as you operate as a developer and you learn more about the building products, you can scale, and then you can move through any other direction. So I'm going to switch gears, and I'm going to talk about what I'm working on now. I'm going to give you a little bit of information about artificial intelligence. Examples of artificial intelligence are speech recognition. Basically, you take something that somebody speaks, you run AI to translate it into text, and then you output the text. So, the captionings, when people talk, before there were like people typing fast, just to put captionings on the screen. Now that is done through speech recognition. Voice synthesis is when you take text and then you train AI models with somebody's voice, and then the AI model can produce the audio with that voice. I'm going to actually give you a demo right after this. And then other examples are facial recognition, when you have like images or video, and then the face of people are recognized. You have object recognition, like various objects in video or images are recognized. And then you have language understanding, where think about like chatbots. When you have a chatbot where you order something on the internet, you don't have to say exactly what you want. You can use natural language, and then through language models, the intent of what you speak is being recognized. So with that, I think the best way to actually give you these examples is by giving you a quick demo. So let's see, this is facial recognition here. So I'm gonna upload an image. So this is the image of my son when he was young. And then notice here that his face in the image was recognized. So facial recognition is something that you have found it like in many places. If you're using Facebook, when you tag people, Facebook is running facial recognition to detect the faces of the people, and they are going to even tell you like, recommend you like which, they are going to do face identification. So that was face recognition. So let's see if I can find my way here. I don't know how to get rid of the Zoom. Okay. Oh, there you go. Okay. All right. So let me give you an example of voice to text. So I'm gonna speak here, and then you will notice that. Let's see if I can refresh here, bring it to a good. So the language is set to English. So let's see, can I make it work? Oh, there we go. Okay, this is Adina. This is a presentation for a great audience. This is a test for speech recognition. Okay, all right. So you've noticed here, like there are some errors here. It didn't recognize my name. This is where custom speech recognition comes in, where you can train the models for the specific words. Adina is not a word in English language, so that's why it didn't recognize it. You can come here and, you can, let's see if we can find Romanian. So let's try. Bună, sunt Adina. Este un test pentru recunoașterea vocii. Okay, I'm going to stop there. I guess we can try something with text to speech that hopefully works better. So text to speech is you select voices. These voices were trained for AI models with voices of actually real people. So I'm picking here the voice of Emil. So this is the text. Eu sunt Emil, îmi place înghețata, duminică merg cu mama la cafetărie și mâncăm savarină. So let's see how the AI models for voice. Okay, let's try from the beginning.
Eu sunt Emil. Îmi place înghețata. Duminică merg cu mama la cofetărie și mâncăm savarine.
Yeah, so notice here I didn't put the the sh, and then it actually read it as an S. So let's try with Alina's voice. So let's change this to Alina.
Eu sunt Alina. Îmi place înghețata. Duminică merg cu mama la cofetărie și mâncăm savarine.
All right. Okay. So these are just some examples. I wanted you to have an idea of like what it means, artificial intelligence, and how does it work. It actually, to train AI models, artificial intelligence models, you need lots of data. You need, for instance, to train somebody's voice. You will need that person to give you audio samples of their voice, and then you take the data. There is labeling, when you do supervised versus unsupervised. I have here an example, like if you want to train for recognizes people's faces, you have to take images of people's faces. You have to label the data, meaning that you have to tell the algorithm where the face in the image is, and then to tell, this is a woman, she's smiling. And then using all this data, the algorithm learns. There is a neural network that learns from these examples, and then there is the training of the neural network, and then at that point, after the network is trained, you come with examples, images that the algorithm hasn't seen before, and then in this example, basically it recognizes faces of the people. So as a developer, as a software engineer, you would be working on integrating these neural network and algorithms in software products. The actual training and the algorithm themselves, this is something that researchers are doing. Definitely another path for computer science graduates would be as researchers. Typically, this requires like a PhD. Sometimes, the PhD can be in computer science, or it can be in math or applied math. Nonetheless, this is like another option that I wanted to put it out there. So in terms of AI, or rather artificial intelligence, the thing that I wanted to share with you that AI models are trained with data from real world. And the data that you feed into the model drives actually the output of the model. The model learns from the data, and the training data impacts the outcome of the inference. Inference is the actual process of like running the algorithm. So for instance, many companies, when they started, they trained speech recognition models, and they've noticed that they work best on male's voice, and they didn't work for women's or children's voices. Why? Because the algorithm was trained primarily with male voice. Or for facial recognition, they've noticed that they trained the algorithms with images with light skin tones, and then when somebody with a darker skin tone the image was processed by the algorithm wouldn't recognize the face as good, right? Or people recognition, like you train an algorithm with images of people, and it doesn't work well for people in wheelchairs because the algorithm was not trained with people in wheelchairs. Think about like everything that happens today in the world where there is a lot of misinformation. That is because the algorithms for news recommendation are seeing data which is pretty much garbage data. So when you feed garbage data to an AI algorithm, you pretty much like get garbage out of that algorithm. Same for shopping recommendations. So the bottom line is that AI is pervasive. There is a lot of emphasis placed in the industry in the responsible AI, the nature of how this AI is being used. And lesson number 4 is that don't expect that the AI will take over the world the way in the movies sometimes is depicted, but AI is pretty much at this point shapes the world in the world, how the world operates. So that is something to keep in mind. If you end up working in a field where AI is being used, there are some other considerations that I want to share here. So I'm working for Microsoft, and all of these capabilities are features and services that Microsoft offer. And then Microsoft is leading the industry with these responsible AI principles. So they want to make sure that the AI systems are fair, they treat all people fairly. They want to make sure that the AI systems perform reliably and safely. They want to make sure that the privacy and security of people is respective, that AI is inclusive and empowers everyone and engage people. They want to make sure that the system is understandable, meaning that people understand that there is an AI that is making a recommendation behind the scenes. And then accountability, that the companies which are using AI are accountable for their systems. So with that, my advice that I want to give you is that as a computer science graduate, you have many options. My recommendation is you can always jump to become like a product manager. I know people who have done that and they're successful. My recommendation is actually, if you like programming, start as an engineer, learn how to ship few products and to build the experience in understanding a product lifecycle. You can continue to stay as an individual contributor and become a technical lead, or you can become a manager and grow to lead teams of hundreds of developers. You can do what I did. You can become a product manager and then work on the product definition. And then as a product manager, you can lead teams of product managers and define the product strategy. And then in the process, either as a software engineer or as a product manager, you'll be interfacing with marketing, PR, business, legal, and so forth. So, you know, it's a wide range of things that you have exposure to, and then you can influence. So the thing that I want to leave you with is, whatever you pick, you should follow your passion, because when you follow the passion, success will follow you. Like I am giving you, you know, these examples of like people or companies who decided like what is their mission and really followed on that mission. So, you know, that's what I'm trying to encourage you, like figure out like what is it that you care about. Like Bill Gates initially for Microsoft, his goal was to put a computer in every home. And then that's what he did with Windows. Google decided, you know, don't be evil. And then they transform it in a more positive way, which is do the right thing. And that is shaping their decisions in terms of like how they are using AI and how they are driving their business. Microsoft today has the mission statement of empowering every person and every business on the planet to achieve more. You know, as somebody who, you know, is just entering the field or is graduating, I'm not saying that you have to, you know, have these kind of things initially, but try to understand like, you know, what is it that makes you, you know, click, and what is it that makes you, you know, being, you know, energized and passionate and wake up every morning and go to work and then feel, you know, good about what you're doing. So as a computer science graduate, you have the power to shape the world through your work, like the products that you'll be working on impact somebody's life or somebody's business. And then with that great power comes responsibility. So we should all be, you know, very responsible and careful about like the things that we are working on, because it really makes a difference in the world. And think of the impact of your work on society. The reason I'm saying that is because in my case, because I work on AI, I always have to think about the impact on AI on society. So with that, that is my contact, and I'm going to stop there for any questions.
Thank you, Adina. So we'll start to have some questions now. I'll start with the question if.
Sure.
So yeah, in your presentation, I was kind of wow. I love the demonstration with the speech recognition. How did you do with because from the male voice somehow it's seen Adina voice, and somehow it transformed from Emil to a female voice. How did you do that in a settings, or how did that happen?
No. So the way you do it, so let's see if I can, and I can actually share the link to how you do this. So basically you pick here Romanian, and there are already two voices that were trained for Romanian. So think of it, there was an individual, her name was not Alina, this is just like a generic name, but it was the voice of a female in Romanian that trained the AI model, and a voice of a male. So if you come here and then you say English, basically I'm going to say English Canada, and now you have like different other voices. So for English Canada, you can say like, hi, how are you? Okay. English Australia. Okay, how are you? This is Australia, so let's play with that. How are you, mate? Good day. Okay, so.
Hi, how are you, mate? Good day.
You see what I mean? Like, it's not my voice, but actually there is another capability here where you upload your own voice, like audio of like Adina or audio of Mickey, and then you can train the algorithm, and then the voice is going to show up, and then you can have your own voice, you know, being synthesized.
Oh, thank you. That's cool stuff. Florin has a question.
Sure, go for it.
Adina, thank you for the talk to begin with. I would be curious, obviously you built a very successful career in a tech world, not only at Microsoft, I would say. I'm curious, where do you see most of the difficulties for somebody who's getting into this tech world? Would it come from being from a different culture, or would they be coming from being a woman in a tech world? And what advice would you be giving for somebody in a similar situation? What kind of strengths and weaknesses to either leverage or avoid making mistakes?
I would say when you come from a different culture, there is a transition, and the culture, at least for me, there was a culture shock. I don't think today is as pronounced as it was like in 1995, 1996, because now the world is way more connected, and everybody has more access to information. So I would say culture shock is not as much as a problem as it was for me back in the day. But I would say as a woman, definitely, all big companies are making progress towards a diverse and inclusive workplace. But still, they're not where they like to be. It's not like, women are represented at 50%, right? So as a woman, you'll always, not always, but, in most cases, you're going to be a minority. And my advice there is that, first of all, don't let yourself be intimidated. In my case, I don't know. I mean, there is something in my brain which makes me oblivious to the fact that I'm a woman. So, but that's not the case for everyone. But I would say find a mentor and find the resources that most of the big companies offer. There are mentorship resources. There are, there are many talks or other more senior women in these companies. They are putting together like content or like sessions where they share their experiences, where they give advice. So I think, being connected into these kind of like work streams where you get to see more senior women sharing their experiences and learning from, tips and tricks that for that company work. I think, taking advantage of these resources, it's always a plus. But like I said, nonetheless, at Microsoft, at least in my group, we managed to be almost at 45% women, and I know that Google and Facebook, they're also like working hard to close the gap in terms of women representation. And it's not only women, like people coming from different cultures not being represented. And you have to keep in mind, like these companies, their motivation is not only that they want to be fair, but they recognize that they're building products for a global market. And the global market, if you hire only people from a certain group, then this group of these people are going to build products also meant for that group. So when they want to build products which are global, where half of the population is male and the other is female, these big companies recognize that they want to have representation for women, or they want to have representation from various like cultures and such.
Thank you.
Monica has a question.
Yeah. Hey, Adina. Great presentation. Loved it. Very inspirational. And yeah, I learned a lot about AI. So that's wonderful. I have two questions. One about AI and one about growing women. Let me start with the AI one. What do you think? What's your vision on the role of AI in education of the next generation? What are some of the use cases that you see AI applies in education?
I think for education, I think this is twofold. There is the use of AI to improve the educational experience. And I'll give you an example. For instance, Teams, which is like widely used in schools, at least in the United States, right? And Teams has the support now for speech recognition, where everything that the teacher does, everything that the teacher speaks, or everybody that speaks, is being recognized and is being captured. And then think about like when somebody gives you a talk, and you want to search back to, where somebody was saying something, you have to watch the whole presentation because, or visually you have to search for the place in the presentation where, you are looking for that content. When everything is transcribed, think about like you can do a text search in that transcription, and then you can figure out like where in that video presentation that person talked about, some topic, right? So these kind of things that can improve the learning experience, and not only for young students, like for everybody, like across, across the spectrum of all experiences. So I'm giving you this example because I keep that in mind. For speech recognition, we're looking at usage, and then we see usage like grow during the months when schools are in, and then we see usage like, go down during when the school is out. So we know that something like speech recognition works in the school environment, and is something that, schools are starting to take advantage of. But in terms of like teaching the new generation about artificial intelligence, think of it as you don't have to focus on the math, the hard math for which you need to have a PhD to understand the algorithm. But if you can teach the concepts, and then the concepts are actually fairly simple. And Miki or Anna mentioned that we will have AI for good in a couple of weeks. So that is a student that I worked with, and she's using Azure Cognitive Services, where she trained the model for bird recognition. So with that model for trained recognition, without being like a data scientist or a researcher, she was able to learn the AI concepts and then to apply it for something which actually now she's using for some nonprofits for recognition of birds in the wild. So I think exposing the young generation to these skills through either user experiences or APIs, where they can do programming against like APIs that actually run AI. It's really a great opportunity for students either in high school or in the computer science graduates.
Thank you. And this is a great segue actually into my second question. What I was going to ask you, since you mentioned, hey, that it's harder for women, or it's very few women in some of the computer science meetings areas. What are some of your best practices in helping other women to succeed? I know you're doing a lot of work in this space. What did work for you in helping other younger women, the next generation, to succeed?
I think the advice that I give everyone, and not only for women, but even like male graduates, like when you join any software company, you're gonna join the company and you're gonna work side by side with people which are way more experienced, and it's easy to become discouraged that when you compare yourself with all these people. So not female or not, like women or not, like you'll have that challenge. My recommendation is don't there are actually two things. The first thing is take initiative, and don't let yourself intimidated. Like when you don't know something, always ask the question, and don't be intimidated to ask questions. Don't be intimidated to say, I don't know, and don't be intimidated to ask for further clarification, because only this way you can learn. And actually more senior people, they love it when there is a teachable moment, and when they actually have the opportunity to share what they know, right? So like, don't feel intimidated, ask the questions that you don't know. So that's number one. And number two, find opportunities for you to even if you're not experienced in that area, find opportunities to to make a change. Like the example that I give for the young people that work for me is, there is some area where you have to solve a problem, and there is a new tool that you have to work with. Find the time to learn that thing, and you will be the first one learning that thing and become like a mini expert into that thing, and then actually build your expertise such that in the field, in the industry, there is always a new thing. So being new doesn't mean that there is not an opportunity for you to be the first one learning that thing. And I give this kind of advice not only for women, but everyone in tech. But for women in special is find these more senior women, and then find a mentor. Find somebody who, when you are discouraged or when you feel that you need that moral support, find that person that you can confide in and that you can trust to give you advice.
Thank you. That's great advice.
Wow, excellent. So if there are other questions, if not, well, thank you very much, Adina, for this nice presentation and for sharing this with us. I know you are a very balanced person, and for who doesn't know Adina, she's have a wonderful family and 2 young boys and a wonderful husband. So she's very balanced. She didn't mention that. I'm going to mention that. She's a wonderful friend, and we'll thank you for having her. So if there are not many other questions, some other questions? No, not really. So I thank you everybody for coming today. And for next time, in 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, we'll have Alina with Think Challenge, Think Organic, Think Future. And I am very excited for the next presentation in this series, Career Matters for Women. So thank you, everybody, and see you next time.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Adina.
Thank you for having me. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.